The phone rang again, shrill and frantic, right as the first light of dawn broke across the cornfields. I squinted through the blinds, heart thudding. She called the cops and screamed, "Arrest him!" But I was on my own land. I froze, staring at the familiar black SUV parked sideways across my driveway, its engine still running. There she was. Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, holding up some crumpled paper like it gave her the right to tell me where I could and couldn't live. I grabbed my jacket, stepping onto the porch. My hands shook, not from fear, but from fury. "This is private property," I called out. "You have no authority here." Her face twisted in that smug, "I own everything" way, and she barked back, "I have every right. You're trespassing." I glanced down the road, noticing the flashing red and blue lights coming closer. The 911 call had done its damage already, but I didn't panic. My wife nudged me from behind, whispering, "Remember, stay calm." Calm, right. I was a decorated Army vet, and in the middle of a Karen storm, losing control was exactly what she wanted. Karen strutted forward, waving that fake HOA notice. "By the Homeowners Association rules, you must vacate immediately." Her voice cracked with overconfidence. I looked at the paper, laughed under my breath, and felt that old military instinct kick in. That notice was forged. I had the deeds, the county records, and security footage proving every inch of that land belonged to me. Just then, she made her boldest move yet, stepping onto my porch, hand on her hip, staring me down. "I'm calling the cops right now," she shouted. And she did, right into her phone, fingers flying. I took a deep breath, smiled, and whispered under my breath, "She doesn't know who she's dealing with." The real question was how long it would take for her fake authority to crumble, and for her to realize that the landowner she was trying to scare wasn't just any guy. He had secrets that could flip her whole world upside down. The distant sirens grew louder, the tension snapping like a live wire. I stepped back into the house, grabbing my phone, hitting record on the security cameras. Every second counted. Every move she made was a trap she didn't even see coming. And I was ready to turn it against her. The sheriff's SUV finally rolled into view, lights cutting through the morning fog, but the man behind the wheel didn't look like he was here to protect me. Karen, grinning like she'd already won, waved him over. "Officer, I need you to remove this trespasser immediately," she said, pointing at me as if I were some stray animal. I stepped forward, calm but firm. "Officer, my name is Daniel Hayes. I own this property. I can show you the deeds and the county records." The officer hesitated, glancing between the papers Karen waved and the house. He clearly didn't want to get involved. The classic middle-of-the-road type who hoped this would all go away. Karen scoffed. "I've spoken to the HOA lawyer. He said you're violating rules. You have to leave." Her tone dripped with entitlement, and my blood boiled. She had no idea that this wasn't just about property. It was about family, pride, and everything I'd fought for overseas. I signaled to my wife, who quietly slipped her hand into mine. "Remember the footage," she whispered. "They can't fake it." My heart raced. I had hidden cameras all around the farm, cameras I had installed after suspicious neighbors tried to test me last year. Every inch of the driveway, every approach to the house was covered. Every word Karen had screamed, every step she took onto my property, was caught on tape. Karen, noticing my hesitation, got bolder. "I'm calling the sheriff's office myself. If you don't get out." And just as she hit redial, my phone buzzed. Notification security footage live feed. I swiped, and the video was already uploading to a secure cloud, ready to be shared with the authorities. Her smug smile faltered when she realized I wasn't shaking. Not at all. I stepped closer. "You called fake cops," I said slowly. "You tried to scare my family, but I'm the one who's prepared." My words hit her like a brick. She took a step back, her confidence cracking. Then the real twist. The SUV lights flickered, and another car arrived. The real sheriff. He jumped out, eyes sharp, scanning the scene. Karen's confident smirk vanished instantly. The man she thought would side with her now looked at the papers, then at me, then at the live feed on my phone. "I think we need to have a serious talk," he said, voice low and commanding. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came out. The whole neighborhood, waking to the commotion, began peeking from behind curtains and fences. Her empire of fake authority was crumbling, and I could almost feel the walls closing in around her lies. Karen's face turned pale as the sheriff stepped closer, his eyes locked on the footage playing on my phone. This isn't what it looks like," she stammered, trying to grab the device, but I held it tight. Every second she panicked, made her look guiltier, and the neighbors, now fully awake, were stepping onto their porches, cameras out, watching the scene unfold like a live soap opera. I finally spoke, my voice steady but cold. "It looks exactly like this. You trespassed, harassed my family, and tried to fake authority. Everything is recorded. Everything." I tapped the screen, showing her screams, her fake notice, her steps onto my porch. The sheriff leaned in, squinting at the timestamp, 5:39 a.m. Karen's own 911 call was logged. She tried to pivot. I was just protecting the neighborhood." Her words sounded hollow, even to her. I shook my head. Protecting? By threatening a legal homeowner and calling fake cops? That's harassment. That's trespassing. That's criminal. The sheriff nodded, pulling out his notebook. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me. You're being cited for impersonating law enforcement and trespassing." Karen's jaw dropped. For the first time, she wasn't in control. She sputtered, tried to argue, but the neighbors were whispering, taking videos, capturing every second. Her kingdom of fear was collapsing before her eyes. I breathed out slowly, relief washing over me, but I didn't relax completely. "Wait," I said, thinking fast. "You'll need to contact the HOA. Make sure their lawyer sees this footage. I don't want a single loophole left." Karen's face twisted into rage, realizing her reputation and her fake authority were about to be exposed publicly. Then came the next shock. I received a call on my secure line. It was the county records office, confirming something Karen hadn't known. A secret clause in the property deed gave me full rights to the land and any disputes. That meant every notice she ever posted was not only fake but legally void. I glanced at the sheriff, showing him the confirmation. His nod was subtle but approving. Karen looked like she was about to explode, her entire plan unraveling. The neighbors whispered to each other, cameras still rolling, murmuring about how the HOA queen had finally met her match. I smiled quietly at my wife, who squeezed my hand. We had survived the first storm, but the biggest twist was yet to come. What Karen would do next when she realized the world was now watching her every move. Karen's eyes darted around, panic slowly giving way to fury. "You can't do this to me," she shouted, her voice cracking like a whip. She lunged for the paper she had dropped, but the sheriff stepped in, blocking her. "Ma'am, calm down. You're under investigation now," he said firmly. Her fake aura of power was gone, replaced with a raw, desperate anger. Just then my wife leaned close and whispered, "Check the side gate cameras." I nodded, swiping through the live feed. There, on the footage, was a black SUV slowly circling the property, someone inside clearly taking notes and photos. Karen had called someone else, an accomplice maybe, or another HOA member, thinking she could intimidate us further. But she didn't realize I had already looped in the local authorities and my private security contacts. Every move she made was already being monitored. Karen's panic turned to suspicion. "What are you doing? Who's watching us?" she yelled, spinning around. I stepped closer, calm but with an edge she could feel. "You tried to control my family and my land," I said, voice low. "Now everything you do is being recorded. Every move, every call. You've lost." Suddenly the sheriff's radio buzzed. "We've got a report of another incident nearby. Sounds like the HOA is trying to escalate." Karen froze, realization hitting her. She had no backup, no hidden authority. Her small world of intimidation was collapsing. The neighbors whispered and pointed, some even coming closer, clearly ready to support the real landowner. I caught my wife's eye and she nodded. It was time. I stepped forward with authority I hadn't shown yet. "Karen, the law is clear. You're done here, and if you try anything else, the penalties will be far worse than you imagine." Her lips trembled. She looked like a cornered animal. The humiliation was written all over her face. As the sheriff escorted her toward his SUV, Karen shot one last glare at me, a mix of hatred and disbelief. But the real twist hit moments later. A neighbor came running up, holding a folder labeled HOA Complaints. Inside were dozens of complaints, all fabricated or exaggerated by Karen, meant to bully others into compliance. The evidence was explosive. Not only had she targeted me, but she had been building a web of lies for months. I took a deep breath, thinking about the next move. The public exposure wasn't just going to stop with her arrest, it was going to dismantle her whole corrupt HOA operation. And I knew one thing for sure. Karen had just underestimated the family, the farm, and the veteran standing in her way. The storm was far from over, but the first victory had already been won. By mid-morning, the neighborhood had transformed into a scene of quiet chaos. Word spread fast. Karen, the self-proclaimed HOA queen, had been cited and humiliated right on my own property. Neighbors were murmuring on porches, some approaching cautiously to shake my hand, others recording every moment on their phones. The air buzzed with curiosity, gossip, and relief that someone finally stood up to her. I walked back toward the house, my wife beside me, and checked the cameras again. On one of the side feeds, I noticed movement near the far barn, shadows slipping between trees. My heart sank for a second, but then I realized it wasn't a threat. It was the county investigator, stepping onto the property to document everything Karen had tried to manipulate. They were taking photos of the fake HOA notices, the porch where she had stormed in, even the tire tracks from her SUV. Karen, meanwhile, was in the back of the sheriff's SUV, still fuming, whispering into her phone. She must have been calling her lawyer, trying to salvage her crumbling kingdom. Little did she know, the live feed of her call had already been captured on my secure line. Every threat, every word would be evidence in the coming days. Then another twist. The HOA lawyer, whom Karen had flaunted like a shield, arrived, breathless, in a sleek car. He stepped out, glancing around, clearly realizing he was walking into a disaster. "Daniel Hayes," he called, voice shaky. "We need to talk about, the notices." I stepped forward, showing him the footage on my phone. His eyes widened. These are fake." "Every single one?" I nodded. "Every single one." His face paled. Karen had been operating under the guise of authority for months, and now her own lawyer was staring at undeniable proof that she had broken the law, misused HOA power, and harassed residents. The scales had tipped completely. I turned to my wife, whispering, "She thought she could scare us. But she didn't realize this farm isn't just land, it's evidence. It's home, it's family." She squeezed my hand, a small smile playing on her lips. Karen would face legal exposure, public humiliation, and likely the end of her HOA reign. But even as I felt a surge of relief, I knew one thing. The biggest twist wasn't just about proving ownership. It was about showing the neighborhood that no one, no matter how entitled or loud, could override the law, and that sometimes, the quietest people, the ones with patience, planning, and hidden strength, are the ones who change everything. By afternoon, news of Karen's arrest and the fake HOA fiasco had spread like wildfire. Neighbors were stopping by, some cautiously, others with cameras, all wanting to see the man who stood up to Karen. I welcomed a few, showing them the deeds, the security footage, and explaining how every false claim she made had been recorded. Their disbelief slowly turned into admiration, and some even admitted they had been afraid of her before. Just when I thought the day might settle, another shock hit. My phone buzzed, a text from the county assessor's office. Apparently, Karen had been quietly trying to manipulate property lines in the neighborhood for years, filing false claims to assert HOA control over parcels that weren't hers. That meant my battle with her wasn't isolated. It was part of a larger scheme that had been affecting the entire community. I showed the sheriff and the county investigator the message. Their eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Looks like this just got a lot bigger," the sheriff said. The investigator nodded, already dialing a number. The twist wasn't just Karen being exposed. It was that her entire fraudulent network was about to unravel publicly. Meanwhile, Karen, now in the back of the SUV being processed for paperwork, realized she wasn't the puppet master anymore. Her phone kept buzzing, emails piling up, calls from neighbors and legal authorities questioning her actions. Her smirk from the morning had vanished entirely, replaced with panic. I turned to my wife, feeling both relief and vindication. She thought she could control everything with a fake notice and a 911 call, I said quietly. But she underestimated one thing: preparation, proof, and the truth always have power. The final layer of the twist revealed itself when the HOA lawyer returned, looking defeated. He confessed that he had been in the dark about many of Karen's manipulations, and now had no choice but to cooperate with authorities. The ripple effect would take months, maybe years, but justice was finally taking hold. I glanced over my farm, the sunrise turning the fields golden, and felt a deep sense of pride. We had faced intimidation, lies, and fake authority, and survived. Karen's empire of fear had been dismantled. The community had a renewed sense of empowerment, and my family's home was safe. But I knew one thing. In this country, protecting your land, your family, and your rights sometimes meant standing alone, but it also meant ensuring that truth and law could never be silenced again. Evening fell, casting long shadows across the farm. But the tension hadn't left entirely. Karen's name was still buzzing through phone lines, social media, and local news feeds. The neighbors, once hesitant to confront her, now shared their own stories of harassment and intimidation. Each tale was another thread unraveling her reign of fake authority. I realized this wasn't just about my family, it was bigger. Karen had underestimated the ripple effect her lies could create. Just as I was about to close the barn door, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but the caller's voice was familiar and sharp. "Daniel Hayes," it said. I tensed. "I'm from the State HOA Oversight Committee. We've been alerted to multiple violations and complaints about Karen's conduct. We'll be conducting a full investigation starting tomorrow." My jaw tightened. The twist hit me immediately. Karen's actions weren't just criminal, they had legal consequences that reached far beyond this neighborhood. Every forged notice, every fake call, every act of intimidation was about to become part of an official record. Her empire was collapsing from the inside out, and there was no hiding from it now. My wife stepped beside me, wrapping her arm around my waist. "Looks like she finally met her match," she whispered, eyes glinting with both relief and pride. I nodded, thinking about the morning chaos, the sheriff, the security footage, and every calculated move I had made. This was more than victory. It was justice, and it was public. Then came another unexpected twist. A neighbor handed me a small envelope, sealed and marked with my name. Inside were dozens of photos and documents Karen had collected on other residents, intending to manipulate them later. It was proof of a wider pattern of abuse, and now it could be used to protect the community. I realized then that our fight had just started a chain reaction, one that would dismantle her control completely. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the fields in gold and orange, I felt a profound sense of relief mixed with vigilance. We had survived intimidation, threats, and lies, but the world had just seen a lesson in standing up for what's right. My farm, my family, and our rights were intact, and Karen's false authority had been exposed for everyone to see. I looked out over the land, feeling the weight of the morning's chaos lift. "We didn't just defend our home," I said quietly to my wife. "We reminded everyone that no one, no matter how loud or entitled, can override the law." The wind rustled through the fields, as if echoing my words, and for the first time that day, I allowed myself to breathe. Night had settled, but the farm was far from quiet. Security lights cast long, sharp beams across the driveway, and the soft hum of cameras recording every angle reminded me that vigilance was never optional. Karen was behind bars for now, but the real twist was just unfolding. A local news crew had picked up the story, and within hours the footage of her fake notices, her tantrums, and her 5:39 a.m. 911 call was everywhere online. The HOA Queen exposed headlines made my inbox overflow with messages from neighbors, lawyers, and even local veterans who applauded standing up to corruption. Then the phone rang again. This time it was the county sheriff. "Daniel, we just got confirmation," he said, voice steady. "Karen's HOA manipulation extended into multiple neighborhoods. The State Oversight Committee is planning hearings next week, and your footage is now central evidence. You've just triggered a domino effect." I glanced at my wife, who was holding our youngest, both of them exhausted but alert. "Looks like our fight wasn't just for us," I said. It was for everyone Karen thought she could control. But the night had one more twist in store. Through the security cameras, I noticed movement near the back fence. A shadow lingered, moving too carefully to be random wildlife. My heart raced. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside, careful not to alert whoever or whatever it was. The figure stepped forward, and in the dim light I could see her face. It wasn't Karen, but another HOA member, someone I'd never met, holding a folder and looking terrified. She dropped the folder at my feet, stepping back. "I know what she's done," she stammered. "I don't want to be part of it anymore. Take this. It proves everything she tried to hide." I bent down and opened it. Inside were contracts, emails, and screenshots, proof that Karen had been falsifying records, intimidating neighbors, and even trying to bypass local laws for years. The depth of her manipulation was staggering, but now finally it was all mine to expose. As I looked up at the starry sky, a sense of calm mixed with triumph settled over me. Karen had started a war, thinking she controlled the board, the neighborhood, and even the law. But the truth, patience, and preparation had turned her against herself. My farm was safe, my family was secure, and the neighborhood had a story that would remind everyone. No fake authority could ever outweigh justice. And in the quiet, I whispered under my breath, a small defiant smile forming, "You picked the wrong landowner to mess with."